Sometimes a poem is a hurricane, spirals spinning across dreamscapes, barreling through to your brain, fiercely chasing pen to page, wailing for you to catch it before too much loose vocabulary goes flying like lost debris. And in one violent thought storm, you are able to write an entire story. Other times, a poem comes like the slow wait in a dark room for a photograph to develop. Black to gray, gray to blur, blur to shape. The letter pixels start to gradually converge to form just the right words. And a poem does not always rhyme the way primary school taught it should. Sometimes you cross out all the jokes because you're sure the laughter will only tickle your throat. And sometimes you don't, because if you cannot laugh at yourself, then what even is the point? And a poem makes you cry, even as you're writing it, salt smudging ink on parchment as pen is moved by spirit. Or a poem is a lesson, like the ones you learned in history class way back in year 7 and only fully understand now, as though for the first time, seeing your reflection in a mirror you forgot you owned, introducing you to a whole other side to your soul. Or maybe a poem is just a more beautifully worded question, hanging its head in shame for its lack of answer, but standing tall anyway for having asked the question at all, 'cause, honey, isn't that all life is? Just questions with no answers, emerging one after the other, each one disguised as a lesson that you may never decipher. And honey, isn't that okay? Because sometimes a poem is just a small scribble reminder that you were alive, that you were here, that you had thoughts and wrote them down, and someday you will look back on these collections of alphabetic origami as though seeing them all at once in pristine clarity, all the hurricanes and the photographs, the lessons and the question marks, forming an impromptu scrapbook of mirror fragments to your life, and know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you were alive. Hello, my name is Bella Cox, and I am a spoken word poet. I want to talk to you today about how and why I write poetry and why I think you should too. For me, performance poetry is as though all my favorite expressions of storytelling came together and made a baby that I get to play a role in raising by adding my voice, my thoughts, and my feelings to the archives of the human existence. But poetry is also my way of self-reflecting, learning about who I am, challenging what it means to live this existence in this world. And I find it incredibly healing because a lot of the times my work seems to become a kind of tangible mirror for me to look back on and learn from. Poetry in its truest, most authentic form is essentially for me soul on paper. We live in an incredibly fast-paced, often cutthroat society. We lead busy, rushed lives, and we often do not give ourselves the time to do any kind of self-reflecting on an individual level, let alone on a societal level. And in our ever more devastating global political climate, that self-reflecting, I believe, is becoming even more crucial to do. But for many of you, like me, the idea of shutting yourself away in a dark room for 3 hours and attempting to meditate doesn't sound that appealing and doesn't do very much to quiet the mind. Part of the beauty in writing poetry is that although it does require that quiet, reflective moment in order to be written, it does not demand that you switch off your brain entirely. In giving ourselves over to the pen and page or any other creative art form, we are allowing our spirits to speak without being interrupted by our brains. And in doing so, we are able to distill and hone in on the exact thing that is causing us joy or pain, and to learn more about who we are. Then when we listen back, watch, or what else do you do with art? Listen, watch, or read back on what we've created. There are often lessons, questions, and truths to be discovered that tell us more about who we are, show us to ourselves, and also help us to improve the aspects of our character that we maybe don't like. Poetry also has a major role to play in socio-political discussions. If you were to attend any poetry slam in Gauteng today, you would find yourself bombarded by stories of injustice, socio-political ills, economic struggles. And these stories and poems, although painful to listen to, are incredibly necessary. They speak the truths of our society. And as the author Ernst Fischer wrote in one of his most famous quotes, "In a decaying society, art, if it is truthful, must also reflect the decay. And unless it wants to break faith with its social function, it must also show the world as changeable and help to change it." This quote forms part of the foundation for my next poem entitled Winter Cold. It is winter cold outside a performance venue when my white woman car chokes and splutters dead. I am pale woman alone, winter cold. When soft hands, black man answers my icicle-tongued, "Please, help me." He is winter cold, black sweater on brown skin. He smiles, coffee cream warm, and breathes life into engine dead. Moments later, my pale body is summer thaw, driving, breathing car, icicle tongue melting to Lauryn Hill music playing down Joburg Highway when black man, different black man, autumn leaf crumpled and brown boot clad is standing, no, shivering, winter cold on the side of the road beside his car, engine dead, gesturing, "Please, help me." I am pink woman, cheeks flaming carnation red at black man in darkness who I've been taught to dread, because black man in darkness rings sirens in white woman head, because black man in darkness means headlines could read white woman dead, and I am heat wave shame. Skin pulsing crimson, wilting carnation, knuckles clutching guilt white to steering wheel, driving too fast from unfounded dread, from black man asking for help, standing winter cold, knees trembling on the side of the road as I did, as you have, only to be neglected by people like me wearing skin a lighter shade of please, speaking in paler tones of help me. There is a great power in uncovering and discovering the deeply hypocritical, contradictory, dark, and ugly parts to ourselves. It can be very disconcerting to realize that the virtues we thought we'd been upholding our entire lives are not necessarily the case. There are maybe aspects to ourselves that we've not fully analyzed and excavated. It is incredibly important, painful, and necessary to do that work, to do that self-reflection. It is only from a place of knowledge, understanding, and acceptance that any change can happen. And so we must learn who we are, why we are the way we are, and whether or not we like who it is that we are. After all, "Know thyself" is one of the oldest quotes going all the way back to the ancient Greeks. It is so important for us to do that self-reflecting. For me, poetry is my way of challenging who I am. For you, it may be another creative outlet that forms your mirror. But whatever it is, I encourage you to pursue it. We all want to save the world in our own special way, but before we can do that, we must first understand and save ourselves. So, gush, fall, break, laugh, fly, shake. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Build your mirror, then watch it shatter. Live with compassion, be soft and be strong. In your own brand of wisdom, allow the truth to always be spoken. Learn your limits, explore your depths, listen to others but trust your instincts. Beautiful, broken, and thunderstorm quiet. Be who you are. Allow yourself to like it. You are growing, changing, becoming a complex thinking being, laughing, loving, learning of your darkness and your starlight. And your spirit is ready waiting for you to allow it to write.